Benefits of modular construction. Welcome to Building Knowledge 101. In this video, we will explain the multiple benefits of modular construction, such as reduced labor cost, faster construction timelines, and improved quality control. We talk about benefits. These are also kind of the drivers of people moving toward modular construction. So the first one I want to talk about is reduced labor cost. And this is huge because a typical subcontractor, his bid consists of his material cost, equipment's needed, profit overhead, and labor. Now, he knows what his equipment cost is, he knows what his material cost is, and he has a factor for coming up with profit and overhead. Labor is kind of that area that you take an educated guess at. You don't know exactly what it's going to be. You want to make sure you cover yourself. Labor can be a wild card because it can take extra time at the job site. There can be delays at the job site. You might have an issue getting labor. So it's a variable that is hard to really accurately guess at. So if we can move it from an area where it's more guesswork into where it's more controlled and you have better understanding of your labor and cost, that would be moving from the job site into a shop environment where you have better control over your labor. So the goal of modular construction is to take the variable of labor from the field where it's more guesswork and bring it into the shop where it's more controlled and you have a better idea of exactly what your labor cost is going to be. So by going to pre-assembly, pre-building, pre-glazing, modular construction, you're moving a great deal of the labor that would have been applied under traditional construction from the field into a shop environment where you have greater control over it. Now that leads to reduced timelines, because if you look at this picture, you can see these are wall modules that are covering 2 floors on this building, and they're being raised up and set one by one. So multiple trades that typically would be fighting for space on the building or having to wait for one to complete their session before the next trade can come in. Those are already embedded in these modules. So in there you have the fascia of the building, there's steel studs behind it, there's vapor barrier, your air barrier, there's even insulation in the panels. All of those trades who would typically be one after the other or kind of bumping into each other on the job site, their labor is already embedded in this panel, and that whole module is raised up and set one by one. So you can see in this building, once the slab was completed, the panels brought out, now the building is going to be wrapped up very quickly and the interior tray is going to follow. So we've greatly reduced the timeline at the job site by rebuilding the exterior wall while the slabs are being poured. Controlled production, construction environment. This is another very, very important benefit and driver for moving to modular construction. Many of you have been on project sites, I'm sure, and you know how dirty it can be, noisy it can be, people bumping into each other. You've got various trades, tools and equipment, materials stacked around. So it's not a real easy area to work in. Plus, if you're going up on a building, 5-6 stories, you're hanging off the outside of the building. But when you move to modular construction, look at the way these are laid out on work areas. Everything's flat. It's right in front of you. You can walk around the panels, approach them from all 4 sides. There's no dust blowing around. You're not bumping into other trades. You're not worried about snow or rain. It's a controlled environment that's kept cleaner, temperatures monitored, humidity's monitored, so you can be very efficient at the job site. Guys have to start in the morning, distribute their tools and distribute their equipment, and then start their work. Then they have to shut down early, clean up their tools, pack them away. So their day is not as efficient as it is in the shop. When you look at a shop environment, you can start right up. When the day begins, everything's right there. You don't have to start sorting material out and carrying it up, waiting for your time on an elevator to get up to the building. It's all right there in front of you. Then when you're completed with your work, you just stop, slide things to the side, and leave them there for you to pick up the next morning. So your labor is much more efficient. It's much cleaner, better quality control of the environment. So cleaning materials that have to be adhered together using silicone takes a lot of cleaning in the field. You still clean it here in the shop, but it's so much easier to do it in a controlled environment like that. Now that leads right into improved quality control. This is very important because in a job site, if you're up 6 stories on the building and you're doing quality control checks, you're going to have somebody hanging out with a swing stage or a lift going out there, and they're going to not be able to do it just any time. It's going to be scheduled times when they're out checking it. But in the shop environment, your modules are laying flat in front of you on a table, moving down a conveyor. It's very easy to have quality control checks at each station along the way because you're not having to swing over the side of a building. The elevations are laid right there in front of you. You have better access to tools, more quality control checks, and that leads to reduced rework, quicker efficiency. So improved quality control because your panels and modules are all right there in front of you. Very easy to check, very easy to look at. Reduction in construction waste, this is a biggie also. When you think about sustainable design programs such as LEED, Living Building Challenge, Well Building Standards, Green Globes, a lot of these give credit and points toward reducing waste from a construction site. When you think about a construction site, all the wrapping around material, boxes, tape, packing material that's being blown around, pulled out, people are trying to collect it and properly recycle it, throw it away, but it's difficult to do. Often that waste gets blown out of the building into the surrounding area, gets into the parking lots, into the school across the street, gets into someone's trees in their yard. We want to control that waste and minimize waste at construction site. So by moving to modular construction or in a shop, it's so much easier to collect your waste, properly sort it and dispose of it and recycle it. So you're not having to chase waste all over the place. It's right there as you're working. It's so much easier to gather it up and properly dispose of it. And by doing that, you're limiting the number of times that disposal trucks or waste containers are being distributed to and from the job site. So if we're taking more of our waste disposal and taking it into the shop where it's easier to collect it and recycle it, you're not sending trucks as often to the job site to pick up waste containers because there's not that much waste at the job site. You've minimized it by taking it to the shop environment. Improve safety. Think about when you're working up on the side of a building and you're up 6, 7 floors, you've got to be tied into a swing stage or whatever you're working off of. So there's a chance of falls. There's always a risk of someone getting hurt from falls or injuries when you're working on the exterior of the building. Plus your labor typically is higher when you're on the outside of the building. But if we can move that into a shop environment, you're going to greatly minimize the risk of falls, greatly reduce the danger that your employees are subjected to, because instead of hanging off the side of a building, working on the exterior elevation. Now the exterior elevation is laying on a table in front of them. They're able to walk around it very easily and do their work standing on a flat floor with the module in front of them. So you're really cutting down labor tremendously and the chance of injury because you're moving labor from the field back into a shop environment. Enhance consistency in a tight market. Looking at these modules over here, take a look at the different components that are on it. You can see glass here, aluminum framing here, precast or maybe stone. There's a lot of different elements built into these. So trades that typically would have to be waiting for each other, working one after the other with a general contractor, trying to schedule them and make sure that the glass guys finish so the fascia guys can get in there afterwards. The general contractor is really worried about the schedule and keeping everybody on time and making sure that they're there when they need to be. With modules like this, you've got components of multiple trades, 4 or 5 trades, all embedded into that module already. So you don't have that scheduling issue. You don't have trades bumping into each other. Those are already here. So in a tight market where keeping timelines tight and making sure that trades are on the project when they need to be, by moving to modular construction, that's all been taken care of in the shop. By the time you get to the field, all the issues of trades overlapping each other has been resolved. And we're just setting modules one after the other and not worried about trades bumping into each other. That is all we have time for in this video. If you'd like to watch more of our 101 video series, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Kawneer Company, Inc.